here. And
I'm going to turn off my ring.
that sounds like a heck of an idea. And here we go.
Arnold Investment Consultant brings you this Garage Logic episode. Call Josh at 952-925-5608 for a free 48-minute consultation.
Hail the flashlight king.
And now, from the mayor's office above the boathouse on the east shore of Spoon Lake, it's Garage Logic with Chris Reavers manning Technology Corner, Kenny Olson from the Krabby Coffee Shop, John Height in the newsroom, and of course, the rookie. Here's your flashlight king, the fireworks commissioner, and the keeper of common sense, your mayor, Joe Souchere.
Joe Souchere here. You're listening to a mayor deputized by me in my absence. Please give him the due privileges and respect that all garage logicians would give their guests. Thank you.
Oh, custom.
And I do have to tell you that ceremony when you get deputized,
Yeah.
it's
Is it still stinging?
it's a little unseemly
Still sting?
and a little painful.
Okay, yeah, right.
And I thought the paddles had gone out with the fraternity days from Animal House, but apparently that is not true.
How
Keeps
long
out the
ago was
riffraff.
that? Because you've been filling in for Joe forever.
It's been a number of back to radio days. Yeah. I don't know how many years, but it's still sting. When I sit down, it's a little tender.
Well, I don't want to kiss too much hind end, but with Kessler gone, I think you're the best political reporter that the Twin Cities has.
He went up the pecking order.
It took until Pat was gone.
Yes,
for
yes,
that
it
to
really did. Truth be
the case.
told.
Rookie's political reporter power rankings are in, Tom.
Yeah,
and you're
yeah,
number
they're
one.
in. Your RPI, your reportable political integrity.
In fact, that's why we're a little behind schedule. You were at the Capitol.
Yeah, I'm working. It was actually an interview for a story that's not going to air today, but it's going to air hopefully later this week. And then I'm also trying to work on a story for today about the big beautiful bill. And
by
the way, you were required apparently by law to say that because that's the official name of it. People think it's just a nickname. It's actually
The big
the name
beautiful
of the
bill.
bill.
Yeah.
So it sounds like we're offering an opinion, and we're really not.
Is the big beautiful bill bad?
Well, that is all in the eye of the beholder.
Okay. I said
There's a lot of alliteration with this
Keeping with
conversation.
the alliteration with the B's. And one interesting thing, we're trying to include this a little bit in a story for today. The big beautiful bill is more than just a budget. It has a lot of things because it's kind of a kitchen sink, junkyard bill. Throw everything in there and we'll see what happens. One thing is a 10-year moratorium on states from passing laws to put any restrictions on artificial intelligence, which seems short-sighted.
So
to
we
me.
cannot put any
State regulations on artificial intelligence. Now we've already done some that are in law. The deep fakes that makes it illegal to put your. Don't get me wrong, you've got a great body, Rook, but if someone
I
wants
wish somebody would.
Somebody wants to put your head on the body of, John Cena, for instance, which a lot of people kind of picture the two of you and go,
my head's just as big as his.
People have never seen him in the same room together. But that there are certain regulations against that. Also using AI in political ads. Like if you want to do a negative ad about your opponent and you use AI to
have him push a tractor or doing whatever.
Doing something crazy, it would, we think, restrict those. It would null
I would
and
hope
void
so.
those.
Really. If that were the case, though, who would be the filter you would have to, if I'm a rookie running for city council and I've got, Dan Smith here, and I've got Dan Smith, I do him, he's on a tractor and he runs over rose bushes. Do I send that to a board that would review that, or how would I? Or would they just see it when it got on the
They
tube?
would see, it would have to be
You just have to have a discerning eye with everything now.
Yeah, and but a 10-year moratorium, AI is changing every day.
Every day, yep.
And you look at how it is going to impact the job market. It's going to take over a lot of jobs that human beings are now doing. This is a different end of this, but the amazing transformation of AI on a daily, weekly, monthly basis is amazing. So to put a 10-year moratorium seems a bit, where could AI be in 10 years?
How about 1 year?
Yeah, I know. That's why
I
I'm
mean, it's
saying,
going
what about
so
10
fast.
years from now? In fact, the three of us might just be, robots.
We might be out in the street.
The thing that
Because we
was
already have artificial intelligence.
Yes.
well, perfect
So-
example was this was maybe 6 months ago, and I was in here. I was doing the post production stuff, and Joe was in here doing whatever. And Mike Fratelloni came in because he and I were going to do our show. He goes, "Hey, Joe, look at this cool thing I just did." Mike took one of Joe's columns from, again, 6 months ago or whatever, entered it into this Chat GPT, and out came a 15-minute segment of two generic voices, talking back and forth on the subject matter of Joe's column. And it was fascinating but horrifying at the same time.
Because it wasn't real.
It sounded like it was a regular talk radio show, but it was based upon Joe's column, and I could not believe what happened. And you should have seen Joe.
Yeah, his
how
head was
did you do
exploding.
this? But again, it just goes to show you. And again, that was only 6 months ago. So what's going to happen 6 months from now, and so forth?
And the reality is that those voices can sound so real. They no longer sound like Hal from 2001: Space Odyssey.
Right.
Are we not friends anymore?
Yes. It is that it can sound so real, and so you don't really know, is this really two people? And why couldn't that replace, no offense to you guys, but a podcast like this?
Well,
a
voiceover
newscast?
work.
I mean,
Yeah.
yes.
Voiceover
absolutely.
work is completely different now than it was 5
Yeah,
years
why
ago.
pay a human to do that when you can have a computer?
And you're seeing that now with movies. You're seeing that with soon to come to television shows, because these publication houses are going to say, well, why would I pay Brad Pitt $20 million when I can get an AI figurehead that looks almost
Lad fit.
Exactly. And I don't have to pay anything for it. And that's what's coming.
Lad Fett is a very underrated
It
actor,
really
by the way.
B actor,
Yes,
but,
yeah, but
we
he's-
have come a long way from how about a nice game of chess? War games.
It is, and then the fact that they can do it with video too. Now, I didn't see this, but I remember during the NBA, I think it was the finals, there was like a 30-second or 60-second. I think it was something put together by the NBA, and it was all AI, and it was people. I mean, it was video and sound, and I'm told you could not tell it from the real thing.
Well,
I mean,
That's incredible.
so,
Wow.
so getting back to the big beautiful bill, this moratorium on state restrictions on AI seems a little aggressive, given the fact that in 10 years, where could this all go if you don't start putting some guardrails on it now?
Right.
What do you do when horse is out of the barn?
well, and that's the when you really seriously think about it, even movie making. You would joke about it, but are they going to need? It's just going to be character generated. It's going to be, you don't really need. That's going to change the industry.
Yeah.
As far as, the good actors and Tom Cruise doing his stunts and all that other stuff. It's and then what's believable. You go on social media, you see something. Do you believe it? Do you not believe it? And then people get in arguments because of that. No, that's real. No, it's not real. This is AI. An alligator cannot take down a spaceship. It's,
But can 100 men take on one gorilla? Oh my God! That's the other one that has, and this is one example. There's been a lot of talk here in the last few weeks about our political climate after the shootings, and really even before that, how tense everything is. Imagine how much more tense and how much more vitriolic it could get with people putting out things that are fake, that appear to be real, that get people all ginned up.
Mm-hmm.
And what is it going to cause them to do? I don't know, it's a really, I don't want to say, because artificial intelligence has a lot of good uses in terms of disease research. Right. I mean, they're exponentially able to do so much more in terms of genetics and different things, and trying to find cures for cancer and that type of thing. So a lot of good uses for it, but boy, there is a lot of space for misuse that could lead us down a pretty scary path.
well, and that's just for the mildly good people. the really, really bad people can take AI and use it to take grandma's Social Security fund or 401k or whatever the case may be, or have their grandson make a plea, and it looks like them because they've taken them off of social media.
Well, and
Say,
it's
Grandma, I need this money.
And it's the instant nature at which all of that information is available. I mean, it takes no time. Again, I'll mention the thing. Mike said this took me less than 2 minutes to do, to create a 14. So I'm just saying, like Rick was saying, everybody would think in a perfect world that there would be no ill intent behind something like this. But unfortunately, that's not the reality with which we live in, because the bad people out there are always going to use, whether it's drones or whatever, right? There's someone is always going to find a way to use this information for these platforms for evil purposes.
But are we going through the road closed sign? Because what was the biggest fear from day one when they started talking about robots? The biggest fear
Human
is what?
takeover.
They're gonna reject. Right, they're gonna go mutant on us and cyborg and take us over. And are we still plowing through? And this is still, there's evidence of this still happening.
Well, with AI, that you tell AI that you try to put guardrails on it, and eventually, sadly, computers are a lot like humans. Sometimes they don't want guardrails. Sometimes they want to work
Don't
a
put
little bit
baby
outside.
in the corner.
Yeah, no,
Yes.
I've got, and so it is really interesting. We were talking about taking grandma's 401k, or frankly, my 401k. Why are you focused on grandma only?
Right.
I mean, how far are we from a program just being able to try to figure out your passwords or my passwords or yours using information, like say from my Instagram page or Facebook, and it just runs through all the possible combinations of, my mom's maiden name and my pet's name and all these different things.
Mama likes it hot.
Until how did you
I
get mine?
I copied yours.
Okay.
Mama likes it hot too.
Yeah, mine is 1, 2, 3
Yes, okay.
exclamation point.
Yes.
So, but how far are we from that? I mean, it's.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd hate to
So-
come in here and be the doomsday factory.
But what is the big fun bill say? It says the states cannot alternate or
yeah, you couldn't. We've passed a couple of laws that would regulate AI, and they're saying stop doing that. You can't do it. Now, from my understanding, we're still working on this. The House bill then has a penalty for any state that does do it, where you would lose some federal funding. The Senate bill, I understand, has taken that out, the penalty, but still has the moratorium. So it's the Wild West is what they want to keep it.
So
at
is this
for
going to
10
be
years.
something that's basically pushed through because of the holiday stretch here that's coming up? Is that kind of the impression you're
and
getting?
remember, this is a small part of the bill. Most of it is about what is this going to do to the debt. There are some good things in the bill. It'll keep your taxes low, but at what cost to the national debt and that type of thing. So, but the president wants this bill on his desk arbitrarily by the 4th of July. I'm sure he's got some kind of an Independence Day theme on this. And Republicans in the House and Senate are trying to bend to his will, so we'll see what happens. But anyway, on that cheery note, should we take a break, and maybe we'll come back and talk about some happier things like road construction. I have a story for you guys today about road construction.
That's not
road
fun.
rage and road construction.
Okay.
I'll tell you about that when we come back.
Hail the flashlight king.
You know, it gets very festive. June 30th, the last day in June. And you've got kids, you've got grandkids, you've got nieces and nephews, and they are working toward the July 4th celebration. And you might even sneak a couple in, maybe July 3rd. But you need a quality fireworks, you need knowledge, and you need the best available. Well, that's where Fireworks Forever comes into play, online at fireworksforever.com. Veteran founded in 1981. And what's their mission? Promote, preserve, and protect the responsible enjoyment of backyard fireworks through superior products, stellar service, multifaceted education, and a passion for sparking joy. Why do I give you their mission? Because they don't just want you to come in, buy them, and leave. They want to talk to you. You're a garage logician. You listen to the podcast. That's why the family has created, and it's locally operated by 2 generations, the second generation. They handpick and import all their fireworks. There's no middleman. More booms for less bucks. That's what they are at Fireworks Forever. Somerset, St. Croix Falls, the knowledgeable staff, actual pyrotechs on staff to help answer any questions or provide education on safe, responsible fireworks use. You saw that email that I got last week where the GLers went in there. They were approached. They went down they took their time. It's not just buy these and get out of here. No, they want you to be knowledgeable. And they've got a great selection. The grandpa also wanted some that could blow off during the day so he could entertain some of the young kids. Prices are right there online, fireworksforever.com. Huge selection, over 400 products in stores. And don't forget to tell them that the Rook sent you. No gimmicks, transparent pricing. Every product in stores includes an informative product description and a QR code linking to the short video. You can see what they do. They got it together. They're garage logicians, full of common sense. So don't make a stop at Paul's Prosthesis Palace. Go to fireworksforever.com and let them know that you heard it from the Rook on the Garage Logic podcast. Mr. Hauser?
'Tis the season for fireworks.
It really is. And again, you don't want to make a trip to Paul's Prosthesis Palace.
We got to
get
hear
a
from
finger.
Paul.
We'll hear that the next break.
I've started hearing fireworks out my window as soon as it gets
Last night.
dusk, because it's the week, and that it's not just the 4th of July or the day after. It starts several days.
Speaking of that, you and I used to live near each other. Did you get hit with a tornado Saturday night?
No, but we did go to the basement. You know how it is. You get jaded after a while. I'm watching Channel 5.
Southwest corner.
I'm getting the warnings on my phone. The sirens are going, and still. It was 1:30 in the morning. I was tired. Had to be up early the next day. Finally,
I'm willing to roll the dice.
Finally, my daughter walks in and goes, "Think we ought to go to the basement?" Yeah, we probably should.
Yeah, because we had one in Carver, so just north of us, in Jordan, where I live. But there was some action out my way on Saturday night. Anyway, I didn't mean to get you off track.
Didn't
Waconia, Norwood, Young America, and Carver. Again, I was watching Chris yesterday morning. He said all 3 of those areas had funnel clouds.
Well, and I was watching Matt Serwy on late that night, and we finally started taking it real seriously when he said, okay, the potential touchdown in Waconia, now it's heading toward Victoria, and it's like this progression. Chanhassen is coming up.
Yeah,
like it's the light rail, right?
Stop 3.
It's between Highway 5 and Highway 7. I live exactly between those two, and I go, maybe we should go down.
Probably head downstairs.
But it was interesting because we didn't have as much wind. We had a lot of rain, but by the time it hit us, I think it was a little further to the north of us where it ended up passing, maybe over Lake Minnetonka. But I know by Lake Minnewaska, not far from me, there were trees down. A pontoon was blown over, but like in my neighborhood, I don't think there was a leaf that was down. And today, earlier this morning, when I ran down 41, a lot of tree branches have been cleared out of the way on this running path that I was on. And that's only like 2 miles from my house. And so it was a near miss.
Funny how there can be such a drop off too, where it's so intense, and then just like there's a line there, and it just there's nothing.
Now that brings me to when I noticed on my run this morning the branches down. I was talking about the frustration people are starting to feel about road construction.
Oh my God!
I swear it does seem. I know we complain about it every year, but this year seems everywhere you turn, literally.
Well, you should hear us when we talk to the poor traffic guy that's obviously not here today. But and I said, Kenny, I can't remember it being this bad since, obviously post-pandemic. but still,
So many projects.
there's no alternate route. Everything is under construction. I can't believe
And
it.
every weekend, okay, we're closing 494, one of the major thoroughfares going east and west.
77 to 35W.
And then the other great east-west thoroughfare is 94 between the downtowns,
Oh.
and that's down to these two lanes where you feel like you're in a Formula One race
Right.
trying to get
So
through there.
last Tuesday, I left the station at 4:30. My son had a baseball game in Le Sueur at 6 o'clock, and I thought, all right, I'm going to give myself a little more than an hour. It took me 2 hours, and trust me, I pushed the speed limit, right? But I couldn't believe how long it just took, and most of it is just to get out of the city. But
Yeah.
once you get out of the loop, you tend to be okay. But with 169 being a gong show right now, I could not believe how long it took me to get there last week.
Well, what I witnessed today was interesting because it all involved people either on foot or a guy on a bike. And so there's a road, and I don't want to get too specific, but you probably know the one I'm talking about. There's this north-south thoroughfare that Chanhasen's doing a lot of work on.
Yep.
It was supposed to be done in 1 year, maybe a little over a year. Well, we're now in year 2, and I don't think the whole thing is going to be done until like just before Thanksgiving. So there's some frustration because for me to get to a local quick trip is usually 1.2 miles or so. Now I have to drive about 3.5 miles
Right.
in going the opposite direction to loop around and get it. So I have to do about 6 or 7 miles, what would usually be, 2.5 miles round trip.
But that's also, and I think Kenny has alluded to this, is that you see it. It's causing a lot of people to be very angry behind the wheel right now. And
Yep.
you're seeing road rage incidents increasing, especially with the summer months, and everyone's in a hurry to get somewhere, right? But you can tell on the road that people are getting really angry and
Well,
frustrated.
at this particular intersection I was at today, and I've always been, because I've done it a few times, they not only have road closed signs up, but then they very aggressively put the barriers up on the sidewalk, and even a little beyond that, like, we don't even want you coming through here on foot, even though it's not like there's power lines above you. It's not like there's anything
danger, major danger.
of danger. I just need it as a way to get across the street because I was trying to run over to Lifetime Fitness, and if I were to go the other direction, it would make a 6-mile run a 10-mile run.
Sure.
And I just didn't have that.
I don't
in
even
me
want the
today.
6.
So as I'm running up, I go around the barrier, and now I'm on this sidewalk that is free, and then I'm just getting up to the intersection that they're working on, and then I'm going to take a right and work my way around. Well, as I get up there, there's a guy on a bike and a construction worker, and I thought they were just having a conversation
Oh, no.
as I was running up there.
Oh, no.
And I don't know what preceded this. I don't know what precipitated any of this. A lot of this is conjecture born of my own frustration, and I bet I know what's going on here. I think the construction guy had told the guy on the bike, can't you see this road is closed and, we're doing some work and
Are you
whatnot."
trying to imply that a guy on a bike may have thought the rules were beneath him? Yes. Is that what you're trying to imply?
Did not apply.
Boy, this sounds like some very significant Garage Logic terrain.
All right, let me ask you a question. If you were to publish a story with that very phrase, or maybe you would find a post on social media, what would receive more backlash? A political viewpoint or a bike rider viewpoint on social media?
Boy, it's a tough call.
It'd be neck and neck, wouldn't it?
It would be neck and neck. But this guy, I don't know if he was, trying to literally drive on the dirt road, because they've got all the asphalt torn up, or if he was just trying to make the turn like I was. Well, I hear the guy on the bike as he's getting back on his seat to ride away, and he goes, "Well, I hope you enjoy an early retirement." And it didn't sound like a nice, pleasant.
Hoping get hit by a backhoe or something.
The guy looks at him and says, "Are you threatening me?" And he goes, and then he starts walking very briskly after the guy. "Are you threatening me? I hope you are." And I'm going, "Oh God, I'm glad he had him
Sorry,
tied up."
I can't stay, guys. Yeah.
He had him tied up. I got up there, took my right-hand turn, and took off. But the funny thing is, I had to run to Lifetime, and then I had to run back that same way. I made sure when I came back, I kind of cut through this big yard that is there. It's a big acreage.
Yeah.
So I was able to stay off that sidewalk because I thought,
You
I
don't
don't
want
know,
to see Big Joe.
I don't know what was going on there, but I want no part of it because I've run by there before and nobody's even glanced at me. Now, I wasn't on a bike. I was just on foot.
It makes a big difference if you're on a bike.
It's a little easier to, get off on the grass.
Right.
But that is the level of frustration with some of this road construction because it just seems like it goes on and on and on. And this particular project, like I said, way overdue, and they probably won't be done until after this summer. But that's just a microcosm of all of the construction.
Well,
494, 94, I mean, you name it.
35,
You're talking the suburbs. I was at a wedding event at River Place on Saturday night, and just trying to get back to St. Paul, University is closed. You can't get on University. You can't cross on Washington. You couldn't have access to River Road, which is what we wanted to do, so we could just worm our way to Summit and get downtown St. Paul. But everywhere, it's as if somebody said, let's do everything at once, not the left side of the metro and leave the right side open. They just said, let's do everything at once, and it's a
Tom,
mess.
I made this joke when I was doing my ad last week for North American Banking Company. I looked at the locations I usually go to. It was going to be quicker for me to go to the Hastings branch leaving here than it was to go to 50th in France.
Wow.
I'm not joking. It was maybe an extra 4 minutes, and I had to go down to Faribault that day anyway. So I thought, well, to hell with it. I'm not going to mess with the city traffic. I'm just going to go down to Hastings because it's going to take me just about as much time anyway.
I took my daughter to a doctor's appointment at the 212 Medical Center, if you know where that is, in Chaska. And when we left there, she has to have this monthly back procedure done. And so we went in for that. And she always likes to go to Dunkin' Donuts and get, iced coffee and whatever.
Sure.
So I said, my wife usually takes her because I'm usually at work, but my wife had a root canal that turned into an infection a week later. So my wife was at getting that taken care of. So I'm taking my daughter to the doctor. So we leave, and I said, well, I can't break your protocol here. We got to go to Dunkin' Donuts. It's only 1.8 miles from the 212 Medical Center.
40 minutes later.
We start driving, and I missed a sign that said detour or warning.
No Dunkin'.
All of a sudden, we get to 41, and it just says road closed. And then, again, those very aggressive signs all the way
you ain't
across.
getting by.
But we saw this dump truck going around, and my daughter goes, well, can't you just follow him? No, honey, I don't think it works that way. I don't think
It'll
we
be
can
that
do
same construction guy giving
So
you
Joe,
the earful.
So I hit the GPS. It ended up routing me an 8-mile route to go 1.5 miles. But I was not going to disappoint her. We had to get to Dunkin'.
Do it.
So we go all the way around. We get to Dunkin', and we come back. And it's just, I'm sure all of your listeners or your viewers
have a story.
On the interweb have a story or 1,000 just like this. But I'm grateful.
Stay home.
Exactly. Everybody, stop going back to the office.
Yes.
Right.
It's like when the airport is busy. Imagine the nerve of all these people traveling on a day when you just want to go somewhere.
I know. All right, we're going to take a break. We'll be back on Garage Logic.
And let's talk about our friends at We Are Nuts and WeAreNutsMN.com. Boy, I got to tell you, they've created a monster here with We Are Nuts. And by the way, most of the end caps should be up at all of the Fratelloni's hardware store locations. So stop on in if you want to see those really cool displays. I know Mike's been putting those out on social media as well. But they're the best handcrafted snacks made right here in the great state of Minnesota. Locally made, insanely fresh, and packed with flavor. Their premium nuts and mixed snacks are the perfect way to celebrate everything great about nuts. That's right. WeAreNutsMN.com is also their website. I've become a huge fan of the maple bourbon toffee almonds. In fact, I got a really good glimpse of it too when we were at their facility getting that tour. Great people, family owned and operated, and they are the absolute best. And we're so happy to have them on board here with the Garage Logic podcast. But like I said, go online and place your order today, and please let the entire family of WeAreNutsMN.com.
And they had you at bourbon. I know.
Oh
that.
my God, Tom! Have you? I'm gonna. You know what?
I have not.
You're in again on Wednesday.
Yeah.
I'm gonna bring you in.
Bring me some bourbon?
Well, not bourbon.
He says that, but he won't.
I get. You got sampled. What did you have? You have the dill pickle ones
Those are
back
fabulous.
to the 50s.
Those are fabulous.
But you also had the mixed pack. Didn't you get a mixed
I
pack?
like them all. I like the wasabi. I like. There's nothing I do not enjoy.
They're
with We Are Nuts.
just the best. So again, wearenutsmn.com, and let them know that you heard about them on the Garage Logic podcast.
Paul's Prosthesis Palace. Have a happy 4th.
Tony Lane, you're the best.
Thank you, Tony.
And you extinguish those flames with Hofferman water and Connecticut. Steve,
Yes.
that's a segue,
I
gentlemen.
have a pail of Hofferman water ready.
HoffermanWater.com is their website, by the way. And now is a great time to get on the schedule and have them come out for that free water analysis like yours truly did a couple of years ago. So you can go online to HoffermanWater.com or give them a call directly at 612-895-2440. Either way, get on that schedule, and they're going to come out and they're going to give you this thing that's called a water score. And then based upon that water score, they're going to give you some suggestions on how they can improve the quality of your water, just like they did for me. And I know that they will be able to do that for you too. And it doesn't matter if you're maybe in the mood for a water softener, an iron, rust, and odor filtration system, or a brand new drinking water system. They will upgrade that water, and it will be spectacular. 612-895-2440 or HoffermanWater.com. Hofferman Water has been proudly serving the state of Minnesota for over 50 years. Do me a favor and mention that you heard about them on the Garage Logic podcast, Tom.
My favorite part of that bit was the expressions.
Yes.
You can have
Pensive.
surprised or pensive. I have had both of those expressions multiple times in the last couple of weeks. And so I thought that was
Yes.
very,
Paul's Prosthesis Palace.
very, very fitting. You know, and speaking, you were joking about putting fires out. This is no joking matter, but that Idaho fire
Oh, my God.
fighter shooting thing. It just, every time, we've had our own very tragic shootings of these state lawmakers, and then you see something like this, and I know these things happen all over the country and all over the world, but it just never, it's always unsettling. And they just announced this, the suspect, they identified him. It was a 20-year-old guy. And you cannot imagine what is it that leads people to do this.
Rookie and I, oddly enough, were talking about this before you got here. People are losing it. There's just a certain section of society where they're just going nuts. And I don't know if we're just hearing about more of this now because of things like social media and everything, all the information is at our disposal so instantaneously. But it just feels like there's a number of people there that are losing grip on reality.
And it is true that because of social media, we do hear about these things a lot more. I've been working on this political history project I won't bore you with now, but it's involved going through a lot of really old newspapers from the 50s and 60s.
Okay.
And it is amazing some of the stuff you read that was going on back in the 50s and 60s that would be in the paper, and back when there wasn't really as much of a filter as there is now. I mean, some of the pictures they used to put in the paper of bodies laying in the street.
Larry Millet's Strange Days, Dangerous Nights is a great
a good
great
example.
book where they just here it is and put it out there.
And the media would show up and they wouldn't even keep you from. Sometimes the media got there before.
Didn't have the white sheet of
the police.
4x12x12 tent that put up.
And so there has always been crazy stuff that's been happening, including criminal activity, people who just lose it and do these things you can't even imagine. It is not really new by any stretch of the imagination.
There's always been evil. There's always been evil.
There's always been evil, and it goes back to the beginning of time. But now you hear about it so instantaneously, and you can't. It's on your phone. You turn on the TV, and it's there. You turn on the radio. This podcast, we're talking about it. So it's hard to get away from it. Back in the old days when you just had the newspaper on your doorstep, once you discarded that, you'd go about the rest of your day. And unless you turned the radio on, you wouldn't, when the radio was on 24 hours a day on TV, there wasn't a newscast until 6 o'clock at night on 3 stations, maybe 4 at 6 and 10. But you didn't have to worry about the 24-hour news cycle on television. And so it's always happened, but it is no less unsettling, and maybe even more unsettling because you hear it all the time.
Well, I don't know much about this young suspect that felt the need to ambush the firefighters who were just putting out fires. They don't have a political, they're not for Trump, against Trump. They're not for Palestine, Israel, whatever. And then to go and kill yourself. Obviously, there's some mental illness issues, but what bothers me is why you're driven to that, why this moron shot down the Hortmans, the Hoffmans. I don't know how you can be that upset. I don't agree with everybody, but I guess my moronship.
To let it get
my
to that
moronship
level,
works.
right.
I don't. It's not malfunctioning.
And you cannot let people like the shooter in the Hortman and Hoffman case use mental illness as an excuse, because that degrades people who deal with mental illness on a daily basis and are functioning normal members of society. They're not depraved like this man was. And so you can't use that as an excuse, because it does denigrate people who have mental illness and deal with it successfully, either through therapy or medication or whatever. And a similar case in Idaho, I don't know what drove him to do this, but again, it's a case of public servants, firefighters, who are there to serve the public, and they get ambushed. You've got state lawmakers getting ambushed in their homes.
Yep.
It's even when I say those words, I just got chills again. And again, because I know Senator Hoffman. I covered Melissa Hortman for 21 years. I knew these people well on a professional basis, but it is one of those things you just can't even imagine, really not just a state lawmaker, but anyone being murdered in the entryway of their own home by someone impersonating a public servant, in this case, a police officer.
Right.
There are so many levels of depravity in that it is just, it's infuriating.
Yes.
And what's the answer to that? How do you stop every single one of these people? You can't.
You can't.
And but this Idaho thing just, and have you ever been to Coeur d'Alene?
Oh yeah.
It is beautiful.
It's stunning.
It is like God's country.
In fact, I did
is
that
unbelievable.
drive 3 years ago this week because we went out to Seattle for the 4th of July.
That's
You
when
weren't
we drove
picking up
on
a
our way
car?
to Seattle.
No,
You weren't picking up a car?
I wasn't
Okay.
picking up a car this
Okay.
time, but I made that drive through Coeur d'Alene, and I remember texting these guys saying, "This is stunning."
Yeah.
When you come down the mountain pass and you
Yes.
see the massive lake, it's just it's
I have
stunning.
described it to people. It is Lake Minnetonka on steroids.
Easily. Oh, yeah. Well, I learned after the fact, because I brought it up and an emailer sent this to me, that the Navy SEALs train in that lake for diving because of its depth.
Really?
Yes. I learned that from an emailer.
Well, you and I had the same reaction. I did that drive. It's almost been 20 years, a family vacation. You know, we loaded up the family truckster,
Yes.
Green with the paneling.
Yes, yeah, wood paneling.
And we drove to South Dakota, saw Mount Rushmore, then drove on to Seattle and to Vancouver.
Oh, my God.
And then on the way back, visited a friend in Spokane, and then went through Coeur d'Alene. And I mean, I had never really even heard of Coeur d'Alene till I'm driving through it.
Yeah.
And I go, now we still haven't been back. We've wanted to go and make that our destination. I mean, that's how beautiful it is. And I've heard it's also fairly expensive
Yeah.
to stay at the
Yeah, you know,
resorts and
Wes,
things.
sure.
Yeah. But anyway, this is like literally God's country out there. And then you hear about this with these firefighters, and it's heartbreaking for those families who sent their loved ones off to serve the public, and then they just senselessly gunned out.
I just can't imagine having that type of passion. You know, you talk about the moron here that dressed up like a police officer, tried to disguise him. That's carefully planned out, and to have that much hate, I disagree with with DFLers and Democrats on things, but I'd still sit down and have a bologna sandwich over it and say, "Oh, you're full of beans," and not hate. I mean, Ilhan Omar, I completely disagree, but I'd love to sit down and talk to her and say, why do you think these, I wouldn't want to punch her, hit her, have her, any of that kind
And
of
the
stuff.
other side of it, too, is you think about what else this guy could have done. I mean, he had a hit list, and he had more targets than just the two that he carried out. And to think that without law enforcement, how much worse that this possibly could have been.
And when you think about the other two lawmakers whose houses he went to, one
Wasn't
fortunately
there,
was
right.
on vacation. The other one was home, but a police officer
time.
came by, and there's still some questions about how much did that officer know, other than her assignment was go check on this state senator. And he was there, but then he left by the time she checked on the senator and came back out, and then went to the Hortmans. But still, if he hadn't been stopped when he was, who knows how much worse
Yeah.
it could have been. It's already unthinkable what he was able to do. But you just think about how much worse it could have been. But by the way, I was at the funeral service on Saturday.
Give me your thoughts on that.
Beautiful service. We're going to take a break,
Okay.
but when we come back, let's talk about that. And I thought it was very well done. I prefer going to funeral services for people where you celebrate their life and they die at age 95.
95. House money, yeah.
But when you have people snatched out of the prime of life as public servants senselessly, it's very difficult. But we'll talk a little bit about that funeral mass when we come back on Garage Logic.
You know, it doesn't matter what time of the year, Masters Maples can make everything better. Rook, how about this?
How about just dipping some Jimmy Dean sausage links in there and just going to town, or just drool them over some French toast and some delicious links?
100% pure Minnesota maple syrup is their signature, but the sweet and savory seasonings and rubs. I got a note. The neighbor guy, his name is Cullen.
Okay.
His son and my son play baseball together. I gave him a little, because he's like you. He's a foodie, big time.
Let's go.
He made ribs with the savory seasonings, and he said, "Where did you get this stuff? Where can I get more of it?" And I said, "I got you taken care of."
Yeah.
But of course, no ribs were for me. Of course,
Oh,
I just got the compliments
you
of
lay that
introducing
down.
him.
He
Yeah.
owes you a couple of racks.
So go to mastersmaples.com and place your order. A lot of you GLers have already been doing that, and we really do appreciate you supporting the people that support Garage Logic. And Ben, he's a GLer, and he's the brain trust behind Masters Maples and mastersmaples.com. And if you got the baker in your life too, pure maple sugar can be available at mastersmaples.com. So place your order today. Let Ben and all of the fine people at Masters Maples know that you heard about them right here on the Garage Logic podcast, Mr. Hauser.
And we're back, and I'm just looking at I was actually doing some work, and then, as always, you get sidetracked when something
Yep.
pops up on your phone. A friend of mine who used to work at Channel 5 many years ago, and I often begged him for a job, and he never did hire me. They have names for people
Yep,
like that, but
yep.
you know, actually, he and I are remain friends to this day. But he writes, first official day of retirement. And his wife has me out of bed by 6 a.m. on a 2-mile walk in the neighborhood. And then he goes, "This is retirement?" ?
Right. Can we
Bad
push this
precedent.
bet to like 9:30?
Bad precedent. This is not going to be good.
Well, and you mentioned it in the first segment today. You mentioned, I went on my 2-mile run to go to the gym, and I thought, you and I lead very different
Yeah,
lives, Tom
I'm not
Hauser.
To be sure, it was a 3.5-mile run to
All
the
right.
gym, and then 3.5 miles back. So it was because of my detour around the construction and avoiding
making me
road rage,
tired.
it was 7.5 miles that it ended up.
You're making me tired just thinking about
And
it.
it was a little humid today.
Yeah.
Well, in fact, 2 months from today, you know what I'm going to be doing. 2 months from this very day.
You've run every marathon, so that's not it.
This will be it. The Sydney, Australia Marathon. 2 months from today.
Wait, that's not part of the 6 that you've already achieved.
It's the new 7th major.
Oh, they're adding on
They're
that?
adding
Come
on.
on. We got
they're no
game.
dummies. Look, they're
I
getting
tell
these guys.
Australia, you can go do this.
We're going to get that Hauser
I
guy to
ran
lay
all
down
6.
his money.
Well, I am going to go with my daughter. She's so excited. She's not going to run. She goes, "Dad, I'll be your photographer, your support crew. I'll go on the cocktail cruise with your marathon
Why
group."
not? Yeah.
She was willing to take one for the team.
Did you do grandma's a couple weeks ago?
I did the half marathon.
Did the half, okay.
So wait, time out though on your achievement. So you did the major 6.
Yep.
You got the trophy.
6-star medal. Yep.
Yep, the 6-star medal. Do you have to do the 7th now?
No,
What is,
you don't have to. They're going to add
or
two.
is that one of?
It's
And you have to run 6.
No, this is the new 7th, and they're going to add 2 more. So eventually, it's going to be a 9-star medal. I will not be around. I will not be around for the other 2. I thought 7 was a good lucky number to end on.
6 is
So,
good.
and Sydney, Australia. Have you ever been to Australia?
No.
It's gorgeous. I was there 30 years ago.
Tom, we make radio money.
So I really want to go back. Well, here's the deal. The last time I went, 2 of my brothers own a video production company. And 30 years ago, one of them, his wife was expecting a baby. And you can go to Albert Lee for a day trip. You can't go to Australia when your wife is
no,
due.
you cannot.
So they asked me if I would go fill in for one of the brothers. So I took a week of vacation from Channel 5. This is back in 1994. And I went all expenses paid to Sydney.
Oh, nice.
Plus, they paid me to be there. And you can't get a better scenario than that.
No.
This time around, I'm finding out exactly how much it costs.
A little pricier, yeah.
But
the
I
daughter
figured-
gets the all expenses paid.
Yes, she's getting some of that. Yes.
Yeah.
And so we're excited about that. But how did we get on this?
Well, you were talking about, I don't know. I just, a side note, my daughter-in-law has run 5 of the 6. She has London left.
Yes.
She's running it next year.
She needs to add
but
Sydney now.
she didn't get in it, so she's got to raise money. Why, if she ran 5 out of the 6, wouldn't they let her in? I wonder.
Well, is she doing it as a charity runner?
Well, normally you would just get in and, they would accept you, right?
Yeah.
but she's got to now raise money in order to get in.
Well, a lot of times it is it's done as a lottery system. So
Okay.
like when I got into Tokyo, which was the 6th of the 6
She
majors,
just ran that.
I got in through a lottery as one of the people who had 5 of the 6 stars. They did a special
Oh, that's
side lottery,
okay.
but not everybody got in because they had like 100 spots, and there were like thousands of us.
Okay,
who
so
were
she
drawn,
just didn't
and
get
I got lucky.
picked.
Yeah.
So that's why she's got to go ahead and.
But Tokyo is a pretty good one because you don't have to raise as much money. Like I've done Boston a couple times,
Yeah.
and the minimum you have to raise is $7,500.
Holy buckets.
And it's, but I think Tokyo you can raise as little as $1,500 to $2,000,
Okay.
which is a lot easier, especially with Rook money. Hey, Dad, I need you to throw in a little
Yeah,
something,
they didn't
something.
come to me for any advances, I can tell you.
Throw
that.
in a little something, something, and but yeah, and so they're going to add eventually Cape Town, South Africa, and Shanghai. And
Oh my gosh.
by the time they add those, it may be a few years. I mean, I'm not getting any younger, guys. I
Right,
don't really
right.
know
You
about
take
that.
your 6 and get out
I'm
of
gonna
here.
I'm gonna take my
You're
7.
locked
I'm gonna
in. You're
take my
locked
7
in.
and get out. And they're not gonna have a special medal for 7 stars or even 8 stars. Once they get to 9, I think they'll probably come up with a. But I've already
Holy
got
buckets.
the 6. Good enough for me.
Quite a
But-
feat. Yeah, congratulations.
But I just
on
want to
that.
go to, no pun intended, quite a feat. You know, you're running 26
Yes,
points.
yes,
We're still
exactly.
Rook and I are still working on one.
Yes.
We're going to get there.
Listen, my kid ran the half marathon at Duluth, and all my job was to bring the water to him as he's running.
Yeah.
It was his first marathon. So you see him coming up, and I'm chugging with water. We're going, he's going, and I'm like, here's your water. He's like, yep, thanks. And I was out of breath for 20. I ran 20 yards, and I'm like, I'm never running a marathon.
Well, the first time Jess ran Duluth, I have a really good friend that lives in the area, so a bunch of us stayed out the night before, and she went to bed early, obviously. So in the morning, I had to walk her down to the bus
Yeah, how'd that
to
work
go up to
out?
Two Harbors, and I was out of breath. She's like, "Are you panting right
Yep,
now?" I said,
yep.
"I'm a little under the weather here."
Yeah.
but-
Was this for the half marathon? or
No,
the
she
marathon?
ran the full one.
Because the half marathon, while it's only half the distance, you've got to get up. You've got to be on a bus by 4:30 in the morning. So you're getting up at the hotel I stay in is within eyesight of the big bus stop by the
Yep.
deck parking ramp, the Duluth Entertainment Convention Center, and so you get up at 3:45 on the bus by 4:30. They bus you up there. You get there by like 5 or 5:15. Race starts at 6. This year everything was delayed by a thunderstorm by a half hour, but it is so exhausting. Even for the runners, you're going, my God, and I got to go run 13 miles. I just slept for 4.5 hours.
And
But-
if you're a bad runner at the half marathon, they just have a big snowplow that just comes and it scoops you up before all the good runners. It's like a big cow catcher that they're like, nope, sorry, Henry, you're a little
Time's
behind.
up.
Yes.
Well, I'm pretty excited, and I'll be hitting you guys up for donations. I'll be raising money for the Boston Marathon. I run for a team, Stepping Strong, that was founded after the marathon bombings
okay.
to raise money for, we were talking before about prosthetic
Yes.
limbs. They literally teach emergency medical personnel, both firefighters and hospital personnel, the best practices for saving limbs in whether it's a terrorist activity, a car accident, soldiers who get wounded by, an improvised explosive device, those types of things. They do great work. It's called Stepping Strong. But the Boston Marathon, I'm going to do it one more time. It's on my 65th birthday next
man.
year. So 4/20/2025. I was supposed to do it on my 59th birthday, 4/20/2020, and then COVID hit. So they canceled it.
yep.
And I ended up running it virtually several months later around Lake
Wait,
Minnetonka.
They still held the event. They didn't give you your money back, and you got to do it
No,
virtually.
they gave us our money back.
Oh, okay.
But I
was gonna
still-
say, what a scam.
No, but I still raised the money for charity. I didn't want the charity money back. That money still went
You
to
want your
Stepping
entrance
Strong.
fee, sure.
But they gave us our entrance fee. But you know what I did with the entrance fee? It was and it's,
Wine, women, and song.
It's like $400.
Oh.
I put it toward the bar tab for people who wanted to come and celebrate with me at the finish at Maynard's. We had a part of the deck
Reserves.
cordoned off, and so first $400 worth of drinks on me.
Wow.
So it was a good time. But
So for that virtual race, did you just set up a camera and then You were like, ooh, ooh, ooh. And then you just put it on a loop.
It's funny how strict they get about that. I have a Garmin watch that I use, and I have a Nike app on my phone that I have with me. So I had it saved in two places because those things don't lie. They tell you, and you can't stop it. It has so they get your true time.
Okay.
You can't like take a break, stop at home, and use the bathroom and have a bottle of Gatorade and then start it up again.
Yeah.
It has to be
Zola
a
Bud.
continuous loop. And so I did it around Lake Minnetonka. I ran from Chanhassen to Wayzata and then went west and then came back in around Excelsior and got to 26.2 with the finish line on the sidewalk outside of Maynard's, which, by the way, is a great finish line.
I'll
Good
bet.
location.
Right, don't tell me.
Since we did tease it, I just want to take a moment to talk about the
Yes.
funeral service. And I know there's social media, again, everybody gets all worked up about there's not enough credit for all the Republicans who did attend. And there were several Republicans who were at this funeral. Remember, it was invite only. So some of that was out of Republicans' control. And I wasn't privy to the list. I was able to go as a member of the media. There was one person per station who could go. So I was there, and then I covered it. But it was a great service, and I thought they did a really good job of not politicizing it. The pastor of the Basilica who spoke was the only one who touched a little bit on political violence.
I got nervous when he talked about George Floyd, and
Yes.
but I thought he tastefully did that.
And I thought what he was alluding to was, okay, first we were on the national radar because of George Floyd, and people thought, fairly or unfairly, we're ground zero for racial injustice. Now, 5 years later, he says maybe we're ground zero for political violence. Now he said maybe we can be ground zero for healing on both of these scores. And that was as far as it went. Governor Walz didn't talk about it. The friend of the Hortmans, Mark and Melissa's, was very funny.
She was beige.
And
beige was pretty darn good line.
And those stories, and I've given eulogies a few times for both of my parents and my late sister. I think humor is so important at those times and humanizing these people. I mean, Melissa Hortman was not a political robot. I loved hearing the stories about how she loved to make margaritas in her kitchen, and he made homemade beer that wasn't very good.
Right.
And
Better bread than beer.
These are people, and the people who want to criticize these politicians and think they are just one-dimensional and all they do is politics is just, it's so wrong. It's like those of us in the media. The only thing I do, I don't just report the news, as we've talked about. My hobby is running. I like to golf. I have a lot of interests. I like beer. I don't think that's any secret. And, but I thought it was so important at that funeral mass how they humanized Mark and Melissa.
Yeah.
Most of the public just knows her as the Speaker of the House who was negotiating state budgets.
They see her
for
in the
6 years.
30-second soundbite or hitting the
Yeah.
gavel or talking to, right.
And they don't see her as a parent and as somebody with her own interests and who likes 15 different shades of beige she couldn't choose from to paint her kitchen. And that's why I used it in my story, because I thought it was so endearing.
Yeah, I agree.
About this is who she is. She wasn't flashy as a lawmaker, but she was effective. And she was one of those lawmakers who would actually reach across the aisle, which is very important when you're the leader of your caucus. Now, I did have one email from a viewer go, it's not true that, she would reach across the aisle. The Democrats squandered our $18 billion surplus and this and that. You can't lay that all at the feet of Melissa Hortman.
Right.
You had a Democratic governor. You've got Democrats who controlled the Senate back then. And this was a group decision by Democrats to do what they did. And so you can't blame her. She did a lot to try to include Republicans as much as she could, but that's not always as easy as you think it would be.
And the way they started out, it was a rough start with, we're going to sit here. They had the Nicole Mitchell stuff going on, and then they had the
boycott.
The boycott.
Yeah.
It was,
and that was this session. That wasn't even the budget one was the year before, but trying to tweak the budget now that they had some new numbers. was not easy, and that's why they went to a special session. And I'll never forget the last time I talked to Melissa Hortman, she broke down, choked up about having to vote for that immigrant health care bill that was a Republican idea, but she made the decision, okay, if that's what it's going to take to not have a partial government shutdown, I'm going to do that at risk to her own political career. And that was courageous for her to do.
Well, I think you made a good point earlier on the show when you said you've got to remember they're people, they have families, they're not robotic DFL or Republicans that are just sitting there and trying to find out how they can screw the other party. They're still working toward this. You know, they have differences of opinions, but again, we've had people in here that are Democrats, DFLers, and they're always nervous to come in here because, and Joe, let's just talk. Let's talk about, I don't hate you. I think you're full of baloney with your political, but that's a good, ribbing and saying, I just disagree with you. Help me understand. And that's people taking it so seriously and getting so uptight about it is just the wrong way.
And that's one thing I hear about lawmakers all the time, or from lawmakers. In the olden days, and I'm talking like 15, 20 years ago, they could do battle on the House floor. Tim Pawlenty and Tom Rukavina could not have been more planets apart politically. But afterwards, they could laugh about it, slap each other on the back.
Run over to Lexington,
maybe
have a cocktail.
beer. Yeah. And there's less of that now because they're just everything. You've got to be a villain. You got to have good guys and villains. You can't just be people who are fighting for their cause, and win or lose, you still get along afterwards.
Just like us. Thanks, Tom.
All right.
We're going to see you again on Wednesday?
On Wednesday, yes. And I promise, I can't promise, because this day and age, we never know what's in the news.
Don't lie to us and tell us that you're going to be on time on Wednesday. We know
we already know you're
I'll
not.
be here when I'm here.
Awesome. Thanks, Tommy. Appreciate you coming in. If you haven't done so already, please do us a favor and hit subscribe on the Garage Logic YouTube channel. That's right. Garage Logic has a YouTube channel, and you can watch the show each and every single day. And you can also see full segments, video shorts. There's behind-the-scenes footage, but it's all there for you. Just search Garage Logic on YouTube and follow us along on all of our social media channels, which includes Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And sign up for the Daily Logician. That email comes right to your inbox each and every single day, and it includes the most recent episode of the podcast.